They call it the HP Envy X360 convertible, and in this video, let's unbox it. I'm really excited to get my hands on this laptop. This comes with the latest Ryzen 7 5700U, and also they are promising a 100% sRGB screen, which is really cool because up until this point, a lot of these more, I don't want to say entry level because this isn't really a budget machine. This is not a $600 laptop. I think the entry level price is somewhere in the range of $799. Don't quote me on that. Go check the live price. I'll put the link in the description below if you want to check out the live pricing. But I'm thinking the entry level pricing is around $800. And so what that means is you're going to get a color accurate screen with the latest Ryzen 7 processor for under $1,000. Okay, now you can upgrade this laptop. I'm pretty sure I have the 16 gig variant, and so that really allows me to get a little bit more performance in Photoshop, but we'll talk through all that in the full review. A really nice chassis. I love the rounded beveled edges. It's so smooth. Pulling this thing out of the box, it looks fantastic. It is actually newly redesigned, not drastically redesigned. So you're not going to see a massive difference. I actually have a previous generation right here. But one thing that I want to point out right off the bat is that they are promising a more color accurate screen. And they are promising obviously more power with the Ryzen 7 5700U. Let's get into really just like the build quality, kind of the finishings, and then we'll move into, you know, getting it turned on and going from there. As you see, a nice small brick charger. This is great, 65 watt, not super chunky, not super big, does not really impede your on-the-go life. Like you're not carrying on this huge brick. Some laptops have absolutely massive power, you know, bricks, and this is tiny. I mean, that's way smaller than my phone. I mean, here's my knife. So compared to my knife, I mean, that is a very reasonably sized power brick. So that's worth noting right there. All right, so first and foremost, the newer model has much more rounded edges. So I'm gonna pull up the new model here. We have USB Type A, HDMI, USB-C, a headphone jack, and then on the other side we have our coveted SD card reader, which makes this laptop amazing for creators. And then we have a USB Type A and the power port. Now, let's pull up last year's model. Here we go. Let's spin it around. There we go. All right, so we have same port selection on this side, but as you can see, this is the old model. This one I'm kind of waving out this way. And this is the new model. See if we can get the focus in here. So as you can see, the new model right here is far more rounded than the old model. What I'm seeing with the old model is far more sharper edges. So you're gonna have these kind of harsh, kind of sharp lines, which, you know, are a little tacky. Your fingers can kind of catch on them a bit. And then also, if you can look in, you can see the keyboard on the old model. Because of the rounded edges and the way that they've built it, you can only see through the laptop a little bit. So if I get it like right there, you can kind of see through a little bit. But it closes very well. We got two hinges, same setup there. The next thing to look at though is the trackpad. So let's go ahead and open both of these up. The trackpad is actually, they're claiming 19% bigger. So let's take a look at the trackpads comparatively. So here's the old trackpad, and I have like that wood edition, which is kind of cool. So here's the older trackpad, and then here's the newer one. So you can see it's actually quite a bit bigger. So if you're considering, you know, these two laptops, first and foremost, you have the two speaker grills on the sides of the keyboard rather than, you know, a big vent and then speakers on the top like so. You do have the fingerprint reader. They removed the numpad to fit the speakers on the side. So I'm anticipating much better audio quality, and I'll actually do a test between these two. I'll do a head-to-head review. And then also you're having the same keyboard. So it's the exact same keyboard as far as like the tactile, soft, quiet. It's an excellent keyboard. It has only a slight bit of key wobble, but the keys are so quiet and so snappy. It's one of my favorite keyboards. Nice quiet trackpad. Little bit of rattle there, but I'm tapping pretty hard on it. Compared to the old one, it's got actually a little more rattle, just to be honest. And this might be just the model I have, so don't take that as the absolute truth. But according to this model, there's a little more rattle in the newer trackpad, so just be aware of that. And then open and close. So let's see here. Close this. This one does not have this little notch right here. the new model, but let's close it and let's see which one's easier to open. Okay, they're both pretty firm. So you're gonna need 2 hands to open your laptop, which to me is not the biggest deal. People like kind of the one-handed open. I don't really care, but if that's you, do note that, you know, it's gonna take 2 hands. It's a very firm hinge. Now, a little bit of wobble if you know kind of go like that, but testing out, like actually using it, getting it set, and then typing on it, the screen does not wobble unless you're like mashing on your keyboard and, you know, doing crazy edits. I don't anticipate you'll be doing that, but it's a little bouncy when you open it, but otherwise it's good. Now, this is one thing I always check, the screen flex, and man, I'm really pushing on this thing, and it's a firm, well-built screen. It's great. Now, another thing that I like to do is kind of press at the center. So let's see here if we can get that camera just right. It is a very well put together screen. It's very strong, very dense, so good build quality. Another thing that we want to check is right here between the keyboard and the trackpad. There's not a lot of press there either, and then up here between the 2 hinges. So this thing is well put together. I'm impressed, especially like I was mentioning for the price point, this being around $800 at the entry point, and then as you upgrade it, it gets up into the $1,000 price point. But for the type of computer this is what I'm looking at as kind of being their response to the new MacBook Pro M1. And I'll put it head to head with the MacBook Pro M1 because I've talked a lot about like MacBook Pro M1 competitors. I did my Swift 3 versus the MacBook Pro, which is like a $600 laptop, versus the MacBook Pro M1, which for a budget laptop is great. This truly not only looks, but I'm hoping performs in a way to give the MacBook Pro a run for its money. So we have the fingerprint reader. We have the toggle switches here, so you can, you know, up, down, left, right. Love that. Let's see, what do we have for function keys? Not many super handy function keys, but you do have a manual cutoff of the webcam right there. So if you don't want people cyber spying on you, it's not a switch, but it is a manual cutoff. Now let's go ahead and look at the vents. So we have a vent along the back of the chassis and along the bottom cover. We do not have vents on either the right or the left, and I do not believe that these in the keyboard deck are vents. They are just speaker grills. Now this is an all aluminum laptop, and it's actually made out of recycled aluminum and recycled plastic. So the keys are actually made out of I believe ocean plastic. So they, you know, collect plastics from the ocean, so like water bottles and stuff people throw over their boats and on the beach, and they actually have made the keys partially out of that material. So I think that's really cool. But aluminum top cover, aluminum keyboard deck, and aluminum bottom cover, all recycled, which is really cool. So they're kind of getting green on us here. So if you're into that thing, this is the kind of laptop that's for you. Like I've said, I'm really, really impressed with the milling of this laptop. It's smooth transition from the keyboard deck down to the side and then even underneath. So we go from keyboard deck to the side to underneath, a really smooth transition. Now, another main reason I make these unboxing videos is because I want to field your questions. What do you want to know about this laptop? What tests do you want me to run? What do you want me to test out? Maybe as far as the, you know, build quality, the screen quality, the apps. Just let me know in the comment section below. So this is really a time for me to take a look at the laptop as a first look, but then get your feedback on what you guys want to know about it. So let's get this thing plugged in. That's right. And if this video is bringing you some value, gently tap down that like button because it actually warms up my coffee. And by the end of this, I'd rather have warm coffee than lukewarm. This is lukewarm right now. So mash down. So gently, don't mash. We don't mash things around here. Gently press that like button. All right, so I jumped into the HP Command Center, and let's see, balanced mode balances fan speed, performance, and temperature. So that's kind of like your everyday use. Performance mode, let's see what this says. Ideal for software that requires heavy use of the CPU. When enabled, fan speed will increase to cool the device. Okay, cool. Cool mode. Ideal for situations where the device feels warm to the touch. Fan speed will increase and the CPU performance will decrease. So that has like a lot to do with like thermal throttling. So we probably don't want to use that mode too much. Unless it's like, wow, the computer's so hot, I'm afraid it's going to burn up. Quiet mode, the fan will not turn on or will operate at minimum speed. CPU performance will decrease. Okay, so basically what that's going to do is use thermal throttling to cool the PC and no fan. So really balanced, quiet, and performance are probably the ones that I'm going to test, because cool mode is like, okay, you're finished for the day. You're like, okay, let's cool this puppy down before I shut it down, just to make sure before you put it in your backpack, it's still not hot and doesn't like heat itself in your backpack. Let's see, focus mode. Keep the selected window in focus while other windows dim to save battery. That's kind of cool. So if I put on focus mode, okay, that's pretty neat. So if I put on focus mode, see how like the background dims? So that way you're not using all the screen brightness. That's actually pretty cool. Now, I mean, most of the time you're probably gonna have your window like full screen, but that's a pretty neat feature. All right, so we see the Performance Center. This is great. I think this is gonna be an awesome feature. I'm gonna test all the fan modes and check the performance inside of Premiere Pro, 3D modeling, Photoshop, and a couple different programs. Links if you're ready to make a purchase, likes if this video has brought you some value, and subs if you don't miss out on the future uploads. I'll see you in the next one.